to week 2 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare. With us again, Coach Bill Neese. And Coach, here we are. And I should mention before we get into it, this show is sponsored by Employee Bridge and Edison State Community College. Coach, week 1 in the books. Indians prevail in a 54-0 win over Belmont. Not much to talk about other than good win for the Indians. A lot of good things happen on both sides of the ball. A lot of nice performances by a lot of different guys, and the Indians get the first one under the belt.
Our two big categories that we look at, as you know, everybody that's familiar with the program knows, well, we look at big plays as the number one thing in turnovers, and we were 4-1 on the turnovers. Everybody's just totally depressed about the fact that we did have a turnover, but maybe we get it out of our way right now and then we're not worried about it. And then we were 5-0 on big plays. And one of the good things is one of the big plays happened on a punt. We had a +20 punt return. Meantime, special teams, we had no penalties on special teams, and I thought our special teams played very well. Through the course of the game, Jackson Trombley was able to hit nine consecutive kickoffs out of the end zone, and he was 100% on his extra points. So all in all, I thought we performed well. 4 of our offensive linemen graded out above 80. And again, the other real good indicator that you played some pretty good defense is the fact that our secondary combined, all 4 guys in our secondary combined for 2 tackles. And if nobody's getting out and getting busy on those guys, then I think that's something that helps your defense out.
Coach, one of the things that was very evident early on is we came out and we attacked early, and we're the aggressor, and we're up big early, and a lot of the reasons are what you just mentioned, but a lot of it's just our mentality. Our guys came out of that tunnel and they were ready to go Friday night.
They were, and every team is different in terms of how vocal they are. And it's in terms of vocality, if that's a word, I'm not sure if it is, but in terms of that, measuring the volume of a football team before a game, they're okay, they're average. And what we found that it doesn't necessarily indicate one way or the other of what's going to happen. We've had teams that have been very enthusiastic. We've played against teams that had the greatest warm-up in the history of the world, and then they came out and they couldn't play. And then we've had other teams that stand down there and silently don't say a word, and then they come out and that ball is kicked and they are all over you like you can't see straight. So I think the big thing I stress with our kids in terms of that type of mentality is be who you are. If you're comfortable doing that, then fine. But if somebody doesn't want to do it, then don't force it on anybody one way or the other.
Well, the one thing about this team is, you've got some guys, and we talked a little bit about this last week, you got some guys that are vocal, but you also got some guys that just lead by action. Yeah. But when it comes down to the ball is kicked in the air, the guys are ready to play, and that's what you're looking for.
Oh, they are. And it's a good group of people that are, mature. They do the right thing a lot of times. And they get in here, get their job done, move along down the line. They hang out together and they enjoy one another. But when it comes in time to hear, when they're done in the meeting room, when they're on the field, it's business time. We don't have to be clapping our hands and blowing a whistle saying, "Hey, everybody, pay attention." They know how it's supposed to get done. They know what the formula is.
Coach, when you win by that margin, 54-0. There's a lot of different routes that you can take as a coach to get the team ready for the next game. Saturday morning, it's film time. What was the approach that you took? You won by a big score. Always something that we can improve on and get better at. Obviously, we haven't peaked. It's week 1. What are some of the things that you're looking at? We've got to address as we get into league play this week against West Carrollton.
The funny thing is almost every football game is decided by 5 or 6 plays. You just don't know where they are, but they are. And then the rest of the plays, there's always somebody that's making a mistake. There's always somebody that's doing something well that you really didn't see. You could have a 1-yard gain, but your left tackle has just done something phenomenal. Or you can, on the other hand, this and this and this. So I like the approach, and I remind our coaches all the time when we get here on Saturday, because our coaches get in early Saturday, and by the time our players get here, the films are graded. All of our players have a written grade of what they've done in the course. Now defensively, they have a production chart, but everybody else is graded on exactly, because they're an assignment orientated deal. On defense, we're a reactionary type deal. So we're based more on our effort and on our recognition, that type deal. But anyway, everybody's got the feedback already there on Saturday morning, and I always just remind the coaches, I say, hey, if somebody walked in here, they shouldn't be able to tell if we won or lost. It's just here's what it is. Boom, boom, boom. Now we may get a little louder about a couple things if it happens more than one or two times, or one way or the other. But I think it's all about a learning. It's a learning experience, and that's what people miss out on. Quite a bit. They want to go out and do all these drills and do all this stuff and all the cool stuff, but then you got to sit down and gauge your results. You got to say, okay, is it working? Is it working? And if it's not, there's got to be a reason why. You can't just say, well, we don't have good players this year. We don't have this. There's a reason why it's not working, so you better figure it out. So that's what our Saturdays are for.
Well, Saturday afternoon when I walked in and we had our conversation, you say you can't tell if we won or lost. Certainly that's the case, and no different when we get to week 7 versus week 1. It's consistent, and I think it's overspilled to your players.
It is, and I think those guys come in with the idea that every week is a new week, and the good news is Saturday you're just a little relieved. It's okay. I can catch my breath, and then by you're relaxed a little bit, and then next thing you know, by Saturday night, I know just for the coaches, by Saturday night, it's picking up, the momentum picks up again, and you're already feeling the pressure of the coming week, because the first time you watch film of anybody you play, everybody looks great.
Yeah,
everybody looks great, and you got to watch more film, keep watching it, and find some things that they might be doing wrong. But kind of get under the microscope, so to speak. But from far away, everybody looks pretty darn good, and most teams are. Most teams, the teams we play in our league, and so forth and so on, have great coaching, and they're great programs.
Well, let's talk as we transition into week 2. Here we go to West Carrollton. It'll be our first league game. Again, we talked about this last week. It's a first of 9 games, so the marathon begins this Friday night at West Carrollton. No secret, West Carrollton and Piqua have had a rivalry for many, many years that go back to the GMVC days, and we've been able to reconnect here in the MVL. Coach, we went down there and they beat us 2 years ago. I know that we still remember that. Some of those guys were on the field that were starters on this team, so I'm sure that is a motivator, not just for you, but for those guys.
I think it is, and there was, on both sides of the ball, there was a lot of sophomores that were playing. It was a crazy game. We had a lot of people, both sides, had people hurt. Their quarterback got knocked out. Their backup came in and threw 3 straight strikes. Then the starter came back in. We had a couple people go down, and it was a back and forth game. They had almost 500 yards. Their quarterback threw for 400 and then ran for another 168 yards. And it was just up and down the field. And it got to the point where at the end, I had forgot about this, but we were talking today, with the secondary, because our entire secondary played that game the whole time. And I looked at one of our wide receivers and I said, "Where were you at?" To Corey Miller. I said, "What were you?" And he said, "Coach, you put me in at defensive end for 3 plays because you just wanted to get some speed off the corner." And it occurred to me at that point that our line had been so tired from chasing around that we had to put him in there. So it was a very interesting game, and hopefully we're going to be able to go down there and play with less turnovers and be able to play a little bit more aggressively.
Well, Coach, I know as far as their team, they had a tough loss this past week, but the game was close early. So
it was 7-7 at halftime.
Yeah, that score is, I guess the point I was trying to make is very deceiving because they're a team that's athletic, but also those guys know how to play football.
Yeah, Miamisburg's an excellent football team also, so it's their rival game and everything. So it was an interesting film to watch.
Coach, what are some of the keys as we walk into West Carrollton on Friday night?
Well, I think on offense that we've got to continue to do what we do and be able to make less mistakes on the offensive line. And that's going to be the case probably week 16, that, with the way people move and the way people shift, it's just hard. It's hard to get up there, recognize that stuff, and then get your combinations and get everything set up. But we're always going to try to improve. We never want to get to the point where we're set to go. So I think that's a big thing with our offensive line. I think our receivers continue to work at getting better blocking. And our perimeter game is good. Unfortunately, we had 2 penalties out there on perimeter blocking. And that's good news, bad news. Bad news that it brought back 2 big plays. Good news is there was effort out there. There's some effort being made out there. So I think those are the big things. Special teams, man, we just got to keep doing what we do and keeping the field position. When it's time to give up the ball, do it the right way, and keep the field position as best we can. And defensively, we got to make sure we get our best 11 on the field, that we stay healthy and we get people out there and get them running and see if we can get some pressure on without necessarily having to blitz.
Special teams. Every game, it's a big one, but certainly this game is no exception.
I think so, and I think with Jackson Trombley being able to do what he does now, and 2 years ago when we played him, another big example of that was, we say we want to win special teams and we want to have no penalties. Last year they came out the second half and popped a ball up, and we ended up and did not get the ball as well as got on the play in the meantime. So not only did they steal a possession on us, okay, they also got another 15 yards to add salt to the wound to bring it down to the 30-yard line. All right, so that, you go in at halftime, and the worst thing that had happened right before half, we'd fallen down within like 5 grass blades of the end zone. And so we were going at halftime, and then you come out and you're going, okay, we got the ball second half, we're going to be rolling, and then you lose a possession like that. So I think both that swing of things right there kind of really made us have a tough time trying to fight back.
Now I'm starting to have flashbacks and memories. Yeah, that's a tough one, because going into halftime, you're trying to keep the momentum at a minimum for them, and certainly for us as much as we can. And momentum has a lot to do with those things, particularly at the end of halves. Coach, a little bit about some of our spotlight senior today, Tanner Kemp. We talked a little earlier about silent leaders, guys that lead by action. He's the guy that, to me, isn't the guy necessarily is in the middle of the locker room jumping everybody up and jumping on them, but he's the guy that says, jump on my back, I'll show you where we need to go.
Yeah, you look at him and you say, okay, how am I supposed to practice? Well, let me watch him. How am I supposed to lift weights? Let me watch him. How am I supposed to watch film? Let me watch him. Does he answer every question I've ever asked him in a film room? Yes. He's actually, when he was a sophomore, he was answering questions that I would ask a senior a question and they didn't know it, and he would be sitting back there staring at me. And being a classroom teacher, I know if a kid's making eye contact with you, they know the answer. If they got the head down or they're looking the other way, it's that code word, don't call on me. And he just does a great job intellectually with the game of football itself. And I can't say enough about what he does, and his running style is exceptional. He's just a little different. He's a little different than Medley. He's a little different than Bryce. He's a third type of runner, and he's a slasher. And he gets in there, and just turns that corner, on that inside zone. Man, it's a whole different way of carrying the football.
He, no one like to talk about the past, but the one thing that you made me think about, you're talking about film study, is all week you talked about practice last year, and there were some things and just some little details and tweaks about Troy. And you're watching film, and you watch that last play, or actually was one of the last plays there in the game, where he makes the interception and he ices the game, where he gets that last touchdown where they essentially have no chance to come back. Yes, that has to do with athleticism, but that has a lot to do with the reads and knowing what was going to happen, and a lot of that was film.
Oh, it did, yeah. He hung back on it, and they kept hitting us on that play, and so we put both outside linebackers on the same side, and he knew there was a reason why, because one of the outside linebackers, it was going to be the guy that covered it, and he was going to be the guy that kind of hung back, gave him the read to throw it, and then come up and make the play, and he did it perfectly. He executed it perfectly.
Best way to describe Tanner Kemp, as I think it would be appropriate to say, is that's the kind of guy you want in the foxhole with you.
Yeah, yes. Yes, he would be the guy that you want in the foxhole. Even if you were unarmed, you'd still want him in the foxhole. Yes.
For sure. Coach, we certainly wish you guys all the best as we go on our first road game of the year and kick off the Miami Valley League schedule.
Thank you.
We are going to come back and we are going to talk to Tanner Kemp, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he does as a leader. We'll be back for the second half of the Bill Nice's Coaches Show, again sponsored by Edison State Community College and Employee Bridge. We'll be right back.
For years, we've continued to lose our best and brightest students to other universities. They're going off to major in fields like business, education, nursing, and engineering, even taking classes online. And they couldn't be happier. We couldn't be happier either. After all, that's how we planned it. With Edison State's Bridge to Bachelor's degree program, you can get your 2-year degree and core classes at Edison State and then easily transfer to a state school. Save thousands of dollars and get the same great education with Edison State.
Hi, I'm Rhonda. I'm the Business Development Manager for Resource MFG here in Piqua. We are the largest and first staffing company of manufacturing. We offer contingent labor help and skilled labor help to our customer. We can also help fill skilled positions from CNC, management, and even engineer positions. We are located here in Piqua at 1229 East Ash Street. Our phone number is 937-778-0850. Please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. If anyone is looking for opportunities within the workplace, please give us a call. We'd love to help.
Welcome to the second half of the Bill Nice's Coaches Show, and with us is our senior spotlight, and I'm going to have this senior introduce himself and the position he plays.
I'm Tanner Kemp, and I play running back and linebacker.
Tanner, 3-year starter. You are in a finishing week 1. Before we talk about week 1, let's talk about coming into your senior year. What were some of the goals and expectations you had for the team and then for yourself?
Just for everybody to come together, play as one, and take 1 week at a time.
This team is a little different, and you've been a part of a couple different teams with some other senior leaders, but this, now you are a senior. What's a little different that I have gotten from this group is you've got a group of guys that really, like last year, they buy into one another. There's a strong chemistry. I think you got that from last year's senior class. This year's senior class seems to be the same type of a chemistry. Does that help our team? And if it does, how does it help us in practices and even in games so far?
Yeah, because we all know we have each other's backs, and we know that everyone's going to fight for each other every down. We
are in a situation where now we've got some scrimmages in. We've got our week 1 behind us, a nice win over Belmont, 54-0. Before we get into talking about the next opponent for you, what are some things that you really believe as a leader that you bring to this team?
I go out there and I try my hardest every day, and everybody knows that, and I always put it all on the line.
One might describe you as not necessarily a man of words, but a man of action.
Yeah.
And what it's come on, boys, I'll put you on my back, and we'll keep moving forward. Would you say that's probably the best way to describe you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tanner, one of the things that we want to talk about is our upcoming opponent. Talk a little bit about West Carrollton for you, and it's the start of league play. You've done some battles with West Carrollton through the junior high years all the way through. It's been a series that has kind of gone back and forth because, quite frankly, they've been a pretty good team and a program. So what is it for you as a senior going into this game, going back down there when you knew 2 years ago we didn't fare so well?
Well, 2 years ago I didn't get to play because I was out for a shoulder injury, and then so that really hurt to take a loss there. So it brings more fire to go back down there on Friday and win.
So for you, Friday night has a little extra special meaning, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Want to talk to you one more thing before we get into the when we graduate. But what are some of the goals that you have for this team? And you talk about taking 1 week at a time. When you say that, how do you approach that? Is it in practice? Is it in film? Can you expound upon that a little bit?
Just thinking about the team that we play on Friday. Just only thinking about them for the whole week until Saturday, and then we'll worry about the next team after that.
Deadly assassin here, Tanner Kemp. I'm telling you, this is the guy that you want in the foxhole with you. Tanner, let's move forward. I know we're going to have a good year and all those things, but let's talk about once we get through and we're into graduation period, which is Memorial Day of 2022. What are some of the things that you're going to be looking to a year from now?
I'm thinking about being a firefighter and going to school to be a firefighter.
Tanner, you shared something with me here recently, which I thought was interesting. You've got a family has got state highway patrolmen and firemen. So talk a little bit about that and how that kind of influenced you to be one.
Yeah, so my dad's brother is a state trooper in Columbus. So, and then I've talked to him about what he does, and it just interests me.
Yeah. So you want to stick around in the area, you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, Tanner, I know you'll attack that and be just as successful as you are in the on the football field. And just real quick, you're also a basketball player.
Yeah.
Talk about that. You're a dual sport athlete, and if you know Tanner's a starter on the basketball team. How you enjoy both of them?
Yeah, I've played both since I started playing football in 4th grade, and then I started playing basketball in 5th grade, and I played AAU all through summers until 8th grade, and then I've just always played both ever since.
Enjoy the competition, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we certainly we wish you luck with that, and we know that Tanner, you're going to be highly successful this year, and we'll be looking for number one on the field, because he's number one on the field and number one in your hearts, Tanner Kemp. Tanner, thanks.
Yep.
We will see you again next week. We will have highlights. Again, the game will not be videoed live on the Indian Nation station, but it will have highlights. AJ Ganger, our station manager, will have that posted this weekend. Check the website for more information about that. Also, social media pages. When the Indians go down to West Carrollton on Friday night, and they will kick it off at 7 p.m., it'll be the first game of the MVL season and the first of a 9-game schedule. We have a title to defend, and I know, Tanner, you're looking forward to that.
Yep.
Tanner, best wishes. For Tanner Kemp, I'm your host, Chip Hare. We will see you next week here on the Bill Nice's Coach Show.